Hello, and welcome to a wonderful, fantastic episode of the Fantastic Mr. Podcast. We're talking about nukes today. Zach Briggs here with the lovely Justin Strange and Jake Kramer's Jerome. Welcome, guys.
Jeremy.
Hey, Zach, how's it going?
Doing awesome. So this is an episode I've been waiting to do and talk about
really has.
for months, maybe even a year, because I
I
think
think literal months, a long
yes,
time.
a long time. Apocalyptic movies, pre, post, it's one of my favorite subjects, and it's kind of morbid, perhaps you could say, is because I'm just very interested in the prospect of how society would react to war or a zombie apocalypse taking over their lives. And of course, we all are living our daily lives, routines. For some people, it might be they're living on the high horse, having a wonderful life. They're rich, and others are just trying to make ends meet. And in film, it's depicted in many interesting ways from the politician's point of view, from the ordinary family person's point of view. And yeah, I think should be an interesting discussion. And Threads, let's start with that movie. It's a 1984 BBC production that came out in 1984, and it won numerous awards in 1985. Kind of a controversial film. Of course, we're at the height of the Cold War, mainly between U.S. and the Soviet Union at the time, now Russia. And it depicts the docudrama, you could say, that depicts the pre and post impacts of a nuclear war between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. But interestingly, and perhaps not surprisingly, it focuses on the UK's impact in the town of Sheffield, or the city of Sheffield in northern England. Mainly, in the beginning at least, the first half really focuses on two families, two individuals that are lovers, I think Jimmy and Ruth. And they just going about their daily lives. Ruth's pregnant, and they're not certainly not wealthy individuals. And they're in the background. They're hearing the whispers of war, and the lead up of escalations of war involving the U.S. and the Soviet Union. Northern Iran's poked into there as well. But the movie really dives into the economic, environmental, and overall societal impacts, and the whole buildup, I'd say, of to the big scene. I think perhaps 30 minutes in, maybe a little bit after, with the actual bombing of half of the UK, pretty much. It quantified how many megatons of nukes were utilized in exchange between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. But it was a lot. Jake, how would you? What are your thoughts based on what you watch? You said you watched the majority of Threads. For me, I think what captured my interest just that's the style of the film, the electronic text that it kind of helps with the tension building. I'd say there's no score. You have that little civil service group of local emergency officials doing their thing. That you have the how societies protesting. There's just so much to talk about. But what captured your interest about Threads?
Yeah, like you said, I did get to watch the majority of it. I had a Friday where I got off early from work, so I was able to pop this in before the rest of the family came home, and I had to turn it off. I'm the only one in the house that enjoys anything remotely suspenseful. So, horror, thriller, psychological stuff. If Gabby comes home or if Everest is in the house, we have to turn it off. So I didn't get through all of it, but I feel like I got through most of it. And I was very taken with it. I had a hard time. It fits in such a weird like niche. I had a hard time determining whether this was a drama, like a war drama, or if this was a like a public service announcement, like you would maybe consider during the Cold War crisis, where they had 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Or like instructions on how to hide underneath your desk from nuclear bombs. Like that would do anything, but it was the same kind of process. It was almost like watching this like 2 hour long civil service info video, and then like halfway through it, literally drops the bomb. It's like just kind of like this is what would happen, and this would happen, and this would happen, and then oh boom, it's the apocalypse. And when the apocalypse happens, this happens and this happens, and you die, and it's terrible, and there's looting and famine and shame, and like it was this very interesting, like the way they put this movie together was super super interesting. Again, I couldn't tell if this was a movie or a civil service like broadcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen it be categorized as a docudrama. I've never seen a movie presented in such a way.
Yeah,
with the text, again, it's a docudrama.
And I think, I mean,
very unique to me.
Maybe that lends itself because it was produced by the BBC, which obviously was the news program, is still the news program of the UK. And so it maybe that just lent itself to having that style as it's being produced by a broadcasting service. But it was a very interesting take because it kind of lulled you into this false sense of security of simply information. And this is why this is why we shouldn't go to war, because things would happen. But then like halfway through it just like flips a switch and actually goes through with it, depicting that, I think, in graphic detail, and not shying away from the absolute horrors that would occur. And it was especially because it's so realistic. Like, I think that's a very accurate representation of what would happen.
Absolutely. I think also seeing how it gets to that point of the bombs dropping on the NATO facility in the UK in Sheffield. It was so fascinating. And like the general public in the UK, they're learning about the updates on this conflict between the Soviet Union and the United States through news clippings, newspapers, and broadcasts, TV broadcasts. So perhaps it seems like a realistic interpretation for those that are at the center of this conflict, being the UK, but they're kind of like just watching the allies of the United States, the two biggest superpowers, arguably at the time of the world, the U.S. and the Soviet, going at it.
Mm-hmm. It definitely triggered some like little PTSD of listening to the news, when we went into the war with Iraq, and the constant updates that I remember being on our television and radio at home. There's just a constant background chatter of how many people were killed in Iraq today, or they're going after this, Iraqi insurgent, or this member of ISIS, or they're looking for Osama bin Laden and his crew. And just that kind of, I didn't even register. It opened up memories of just having that constant background chatter of just like horrible, stress-inducing material, just being constantly like, so you're surrounded by like constantly 24/7 because everyone is paying attention to it. Like it's on the TV shows in the bars, or it's like on the radio, or it's on, my dad would come home and be on TV.
Yeah.
And it would just kind of be a constant background noise growing up with. And so watch as the film built to the not just the finale, but definitely to the climax.
The turning point, you could say.
The turning point of the film. It was very it felt very reminiscent of growing up listening to the war broadcasts that my dad would listen to. And it's just kind of like how everyone's going about their day, just like doing their own thing, casually tuning in and like, oh, it's getting closer. Okay, well, it's getting closer, I guess. Nothing we can do about
Absolutely.
it. And just that kind of like helplessness that
Yeah.
that occurred as the that climax was building up, the turning point.
Yeah, I like that parallel there. Justin, did you manage to watch any of that clip I sent to the YouTube of the threads, the bombing
No,
scene?
because I
Okay, I
think
want
when you sent it, I was at school. I was at work,
no,
so I
no
wasn't able to
worries.
look at it.
I wanted to talk briefly about before we get Justin's opinion on apocalypse and death and destruction. This like the what are your thoughts on Jake on the nuclear bombing scene, the just the cinematic techniques to show? I mean, we saw a woman urinating,
Yeah.
peeing herself. We saw distress all over. We saw that the boyfriend struggling to start a car, then panicking and running over to see if his girlfriend's all right. We never see him
Yeah.
again in the movie. We have silence at the moment of the white flashes when multiple people die or incinerated. Basically, a city turned into a cemetery,
Yeah.
and through audio and visual cues of various techniques. I think for the audience back then, it must have been unlike anything they've seen, but certainly unlike I've never seen a more chilling depiction of a nuclear war
Yeah,
explosion.
it held no, it held no bars. Like it was completely like they showed people on fire. And what got me was it wasn't like, tonight today I was as I was watching it, I was trying to figure out like, okay, if this was shot today and it's produced today, what would they do this as? Well, it'd probably be like some sweeping shots of the city and then some like people like looking up at the sky and like having that gas moment. And then it would probably cut to like a ginormous CGI mushroom cloud and then flash. Um, but maybe due to limitations that they had in 1984, they had to use, I think the limitations that they had forced them to be creative and imaginative and actually created a more impactful scenario because what they used is real. Like they actually had people on fire and they actually like they drove cars through buildings and the lighting and they actually had like people physically getting blown away and it looked very authentic, but not like the CG that you would see today.
Mhm.
Probably because it was actually real, and I was very impressed with like just how much dirt and debris they must have like brought in to make this scene happen, and the quick cuts and the
Yeah.
the you know the shots of like you said, the woman peeing and then glass breaking and someone screaming, and I also liked how the first bomb didn't happen over Sheffield; it was like a little far away,
In the
so you
sea or
had
something?
so you had all of the fallout, like all the explosion went past, but people survived.
Yeah.
And then you had the people like panicking and struggling for survival after that, only to then just be annihilated in a split second when one gets blown right above Sheffield.
And the interweaving of the text on screen and saying that the exchange escalated to this
Yeah,
X
the
amount of
cold,
megatons that
like the
helped.
just the cold nihilistic fact of the matter. Like there's no grandiose to the nature of it or no theater of it. It was just I like the font of just being like this is the cold fact of
Yeah.
what is happening. Like a 1.2 megaton nuclear head like blows up however many meters above Sheffield. The
Yeah.
fallout does this, and then it just cuts to what's happening.
And the absence of music, I think, didn't bother me. We didn't need to have music to have the viewer, or for me, anyways, to feel a certain way because I think that it's just the scenes themselves, the constant audio background, panic of crowds, the sirens going off, and then again, as I said, that text that cuts between to help weave through the scenes, the quick cuts. It was fantastic. Even though there's only one little thing I noticed was in one of the burning scenes, it looked like it was an ET from the ET movie uh,
Like a figure.
silhouette figure being burned, and that's been on Reddit and memed for some time. But
I didn't notice
that's what
that.
maybe that's their depiction of what happens to someone that's on fire in a nuclear war. There we go. But that was the only thing I was like, what? That looks like ET.
I never noticed that. I didn't notice that when I was watching it. I will say I thought it was funny that the last two podcasts that we had has been this, and then directly before this was Clerks, and both of these films were almost episodic or chaptorial in the way that they're broken up. They were both almost slice of life as they were broken up. They both had no soundtracks, like no dedicated soundtrack throughout the series. And they could not be more different. Yeah. But they're also both incredibly well made.
Well made, experimental, I'd say. I don't know. Yeah. Well, Justin, what do you think about just in general apocalyptic war or zombies? Is there one movie that sticks out to you?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about it while you guys were talking. When I was going to college to get my master's, I took African American cinema, and we had to watch this movie called The World, the Flesh, and the Devil. It's basically about this guy, Harry Belafonte, who, if I remember correctly, he like works underground and he gets stuck, and when he comes out, like there's nobody.
That's creepy.
Yeah, it's completely empty. It's a black and white movie from 1959, and it's completely empty. He does find two more people, but that's about it. But it's a really great movie. It's been a minute since I've seen it. I'd actually like to watch it again. But yeah, that was probably one of my favorite ones. And then also, for some reason, I thought of The Book of Eli.
Oh yeah, it's Denzel Washington, right?
Yeah, and that movie was wonderful. I remember like the twist being, what it was and everything. And I think Mila Kunis is in it as well. Oh yeah, she is. Gary Oldman and some it's a great movie. He's blind, if I'm not mistaken, or is that? Yeah,
yes,
he is blind.
Yeah.
But that was a cool movie. It was just like I think I picked it up somewhere. I don't remember, but then I saw it in my collection. I just watched it one day and realized it. But I mean, anything Denzel does, man, I think pretty much anything he does is like gold. That's just me, though. I really like Denzel.
Yeah, that was a great a post-apocalyptic movie, a great action flick. Overall, it wasn't mind-blowing by any means, but I enjoy any post-apocalyptic situation.
Yeah,
there's always a common theme of survival, obviously, but like the looters, the others, it's like you're more scared of humans than anything else.
It's like there's TV shows like The Walking Dead. It's just like, I mean, I watched up to about season 8 of The Walking Dead, and like I freaking loved it, man, from like the very, very beginning all the way till I got to the point where I got to, and I was like, this is stupid because something happened in there and I didn't want to deal with it.
Did you get to I forgot what season it is when Glenn gets killed? And
well, he gets killed.
What season was that?
I want to say around season 6, maybe. Okay. It was when Negan showed up. Negan was the one that killed him. He's teased to have been killed at one point, but he never got killed. He like was able to slip underneath the dumpster, but then he does actually get killed by getting his head bashed in.
That was pretty graphic when I saw that on TV back when I was, I think, living at my parents' house on DVR and watching the twitching body with a headless corpse. I was surprised that was even allowed.
What it was his head was so bashed in that his eye popped out. And actually, that's what they did, that's how it looked in the comics, was his eye being popped out. And so it was pretty cool that they did it justice. And then another show that I watched recently that's actually pretty brand new is Twisted Metal, which is based off the video game. And the video game is like a car combat game, but Twisted Metal takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where drivers, you pretty much you have drivers that are called milkmen, and they basically are delivery boys. And then this one driver named John gets a delivery of a lifetime, and so he does it. And so like, um, it was pretty cool because like at the end you got the kind of twisted metal feel where you have cars battling it out and stuff. It was pretty cool, but it was a great show, and I liked like the apocalyptic feel of it. Everything looked really good. He had to go from, I think it was San Francisco to Chicago, in his car, and so he had like there's like different like factions of people. There's like these they're called the holy men, I think, and they basically it's ran by this guy named the priest, and he's very, very crazy. And then you have like all like these different factions of people that he has to deal with throughout. And then of course you have Sweet Tooth. He's kind of like this crazy ice cream truck driver and wears like a clown mask and stuff. It was pretty cool. But I liked the story behind that because I mean it's not hard to make a post-apocalyptic setting. Just the story around it needs to be good. And so I thought it was, you don't get very many good adaptations of video games nowadays, and we've had this conversation, and it seems like it's getting a lot better. And Twisted Metal, I think, knocked it out of the park as far as like story and the post-apocalyptic feel and all that stuff.
For some reason, I feel like it could be difficult to care about characters in post-apocalyptic scenario. Maybe more so if it's a TV series, but at least in Threads, I really didn't care too much about the characters.
I wonder why that is, because like I cared about the main character. Well, I cared about both the main characters in Twisted Metal because you get to see their life before. Well, not really even before everything went to crap, but like when he's a kid and he's like left alone all by himself and he finds his car and he's like really connected to his car because the car's gotten him out of like a lot of situations and stuff. So it's like it was interesting that it wasn't like, he wasn't like his brother didn't die and now he wants to avenge his brothers, stuff like that. It was he was alone. He found a car, he fixed that car up, and then he drove that car. And so
if you have a great obvious, well, maybe not sound obvious in a negative way, but a great thesis or object to centralize the theme around. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, well, not only that, but he does meet an actual girl and he falls in love with her too. But there's a scene in there where he gets his car stolen and it's the car or the girl, and he goes after the car, but then she ends up going with him. So it's like he's really like him and his car are like, it's like they're in a relationship almost.
They made love to each other.
I mean, never mind. there's a scene where another character talks about having sex with his car, and it's really funny.
Damn. Again, Threads was just a very bleak film. Spoiler alert, and it ends negatively. Threads, it starts out with a spider, and the narrator talking about a spider and showing a web being threaded together. And I think the title Threads kind of comes back around to recognition at the end of the movie, where you see how society is kind of living in this medieval times, the focus on agriculture, salvation, using rakes and trying to come together as one, pretty much. So kind of the threads, like everyone's connected no matter what happens. And anyways, that pregnant mother, she eventually gives birth, has a child. That child, I think, is sexually assaulted at 10 or 11 years old. And then I forgot what happens after that, but it just ends very depressingly on the future of society.
I should have watched Threads because I watched Failsafe, and I didn't watch the whole thing because I'm going to be honest with you, Zach, that movie was boring. Like, I did not. I
How
tried.
dare you?
I tried really hard to pay attention to it, but it just did not suck me in. And so in
Jake's interpretation one day.
In retrospect, I should have watched Threads because, man, I just couldn't get into Failsafe. And like I was reading some trivia on it, and Dr. Strangelove came out around the same time, and Stanley Kubrick fought for an earlier release because he didn't. So because when that happens, when you can get a movie out before another one that's like yours comes out, then people accuse you of copying that movie. It's like Gremlins, and there's another movie that's like Gremlins, but it came out after Gremlins. So when people, but it was made around the same time or beforehand. It just came out after Gremlins, and like so when it came out, people compared it to Gremlins because the little guys look like Gremlins. You know what I mean? And they're wreaking havoc. And so like it just kind of sucks for Failsafe because it didn't do as well in the box office because
Failsafe was more of a serious movie versus Doctor Strangelove.
It was more just like a war drama from what I could see, and I just like it. I got to I don't know maybe 30 or 40 minutes into it, and I was like I don't want to watch this anymore. Like I don't really do that. Hardly ever do I just stop.
It's like someone walking out of a movie theater and me cringing at seeing that.
But if I had went to the movies to see it, I would have stuck it out, man. I don't go to the movies to walk out. I don't care how bad the movie is. But I was in my I have like a little theater room. I was in there watching it. I was like, it's like I don't know. And I think that's the same night I watched Spree, which was a whole different kind of movie. It was that movie. Spree, I know that's not what we're talking about, but that movie was kind of weird, and we could talk about it later.
Spree with
what's his face from Stranger Things.
Yeah,
when I say weird, like it was weird in a good way. I'll have to tell you about it later, but
yeah. I think we talked about that on one of our.
You talked about it, but I hadn't watched it at that point, so I watched it recently, and so.
Well, what'd you think of it? That's weird.
Quickly. I enjoyed his performance because he's like this wannabe social media influencer. So he decides he's going to kill people to get views in his which the company's called Spree. It's like Uber or Lyft, and so he's a spree driver, and so he decides he's going to kill people and like
go on a killing spree.
Yeah, or a killing spree. Yeah. I told somebody about that.
I'm sure that's an intentional pun.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I said that I told somebody I was watching it, and they were like, "What's it about?" And I told her like, "Oh, like a killing spree." I was like, "Yeah, like a killing spree." Except for I like the idea of the rideshare company being called Spree, but I liked his performance because he was very like he plays a good desperate person because he was so desperate to become a social media like star. That's just the way he acted. I don't know. It made me think of like this is what a desperate person who wants to be a social media influencer would act like.
Yeah.
If he had his own channel and didn't have very many views.
So was he already an outcast? Time of the movie?
No, I mean not really. He just
wasn't famous.
Yeah, he just really wasn't famous. And like one thing I read is the director and I think his cinematographer or something they watched a bunch of like social media channels that didn't have a lot of subscribers and views and stuff to get a feel for how this character is supposed to act. And I thought
that's fascinating.
Yeah, and I thought, man, that is a great idea because man, he acts like he's like so desperate for views. It's crazy. And like anytime he gets a chance, he's like, what does he say? He says like follow me and I'll follow you or something. Bull crap. He has like a saying and then
like follow or something.
Follow for follow. That's what it was. Follow for follow. And then people are like, dude, you don't say that. Like it was so funny to watch him be kind of like a pain.
Crazy country.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, Zach. Yeah. Didn't mean to take away from there.
Yeah, sorry. Didn't mean
that was a nice little. That was a nice little tangent.
I mean, that's post-apocalyptic in a way. It would be so desensitized by social media that you would go out and kill people. But anyway,
whatever you got to say to
whatever I got to I'm gonna wrap it all
justify
in,
it. Yeah, to justify it.
Could you argue that the Purge franchise to a degree is post-apocalyptic?
I think there's a ton. I think there's a ton. If you look at it, would be considered.
I think that
it's the demise of society.
Well.
As we know it.
I don't think of it as post-apocalyptic, but it does give a post-apocalyptic
from a certain point of view.
I think maybe not post. It's probably just apocalyptic.
It's happening.
Yeah, it's like that's what I'm saying. Like on the night, it does seem like a post-apocalyptic type movie where everybody's out for themselves, but then the next day it goes back to normal. But I don't know if y'all have seen What is it? The Purge, the Forever Purge.
I don't know. I've
And
lost count.
spoiler
Yeah,
alert, that one ends in like almost a nation because I think it starts off in Texas, but it goes into Mexico. But it's kind of like the beginning of an apocalypse because
Yeah.
because the purge is over, but people are still killing. And so it like the end of it, spoiler alert, it's like turning into some sort of
So what's the
apocalypse.
government get killed or something, or what happens?
Well, you don't really see it. I mean, you see it.
Overthrown.
Well, it shows like a bird's eye view of the U.S. and Mexico and like all them,
Yeah.
where you see like almost like little flashes of lights where it's like spreading. You know what I mean? If I remember correctly, and hopefully I'm not wrong, but people can correct me if I am wrong. But it does end in like the idea that this it's the forever purge, as in like it's the apocalypse. People are not going to stop purging.
Yeah, I think the official would probably be better classified as a dystopian, like a dystopian film or series, but I think that's pretty negligible in comparison to the apocalyptic apocalypse
Apocalypse.
apocalypse
Apocalypse. Yeah,
Disaster.
it does give an apocalypse vibe. But then at least with all the other movies, it goes back to normal the next day. It's like, all right, well, the purge is over. Yeah, you can get in trouble if you kill people, so stop killing people.
Well, for me, my post-apocalyptic it's hard. My
Post-apocalyptic.
post-apocalyptic film comes from my childhood being as a little baby fundamentalist Christian in the Bible Belt.
Left Behind.
The great 2005 film. Not 2005. The great 2001 direct-to-video film, Left Behind, the movie.
I saw the first one, and my mom read all the books. But I forgot about those movies.
It's based off the series of the same name by Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins, directed by Vic Sarin, and stars, wait for it, Kirk Cameron, Brad Johnson, Chelsea Noble, Janaea Steffens, Gordon Curry, and Clarence Gilliard.
So yeah, and what's that movie about?
If you are familiar with Christian literature at all, it is the film adaptation of When the Rapture Happens, and the people who aren't Christians get left behind and have to deal with the Antichrist and the apocalyptic fallout of all the Christians being whisked away into heaven. And so it like follows this guy named Buck, who's like reporting on Israel, of course.
I love that. Follows this guy named
Buck. Because of course it is, and he's reporting on Israel, and then all of a sudden, like, Arab and Russian jets fly overhead, and the sun disappears, even though it's still daytime, and all this crazy stuff happens. And it's him trying to figure out like what's going on, and like ultimately like become a Christian, essentially. Like he discovers that it was true, it was all true, and so he gives his life over to Christ, and now he's on a mission to single-handedly confront the Antichrist.
Oh my God. So have you
which is of course a UN government official.
Of course. He's from Romania, right? Isn't that where he's from? He's from Romania, right? He's like a Romanian official.
Yes,
the Antichrist. I think he's from Romania, and like people just love him, and he's like
people love him. He's great.
Like world peace and all this stuff with this guy, man. That's what they say. The Antichrist. Everybody's gonna love the Antichrist, and so that's how you know. That's why, like,
that's how you know it's him.
And that's how come when people are like, oh, like when I was a kid. And this could have been some sort of like stupid talk that I was just hearing from other people, but people would always say Ozzy Osbourne was the Antichrist and stuff like that. I'm like, but people don't like Ozzy Osbourne. There are people that don't like him, so there's no way. But like with every
elected president for the past 30 years has been quote unquote the Antichrist.
Yeah. And so it's like, but there's people that like, you can't call him the Antichrist because then he's not the Antichrist. When you don't call that person the Antichrist and everybody loves him unanimously,
There's a better chance of him being the Antichrist.
yeah, there's a way better chance of this person being the Antichrist. Oh my God. I can't that day doesn't like, I don't want to get to that day. There was something I was going to ask you, Jake. So there's been some newer Left Behind movies. I don't know if you've seen the one 2014 with Nicolas Cage.
Nope.
It was okay. Like I watched it, and I mean, it's very like, Nicolas Cage is in everything. So he's like in this one, it follows Nicolas Cage, and he's like a pilot, and the rapture happens, and blah blah blah. But then they just
looked it up. It holds a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I think when I worked at the library, I think I checked it out because I wanted to watch it, and me and my friends watched it. And like it was very okay. Like there wasn't anything special about it. It's clearly not necessarily from the books. Like it's just got that same name. I mean, I'm sure.
Well, see, that's their problem. They didn't have any of the inflammatory stuff to rile up actual Christians, and no one outside of the Christian community actually cares.
Yeah.
So it just fell flat.
But in 2023, there was another one that came out, and I haven't seen this one. It's called Left Behind: Rise of the Antichrist.
Of course.
I was going to go try and see it in theaters when it came out with my mom because she likes those kind of movies, but we never got around to it. I need to see.
Oh, okay, we got Kevin Sorbo. Okay, yep, that tracks.
I'm gonna see if I can find this movie.
Neil McDonough.
Oh, I have to pay for it if I want to watch it. Lame. Oh, look, it might be on the Roku channel. Zach likes the Roku channel.
I do.
He won't stop talking about it.
This feels very much like a what production company?
I found it on Daily Motion, full 1 hour and 56 minutes and 20 seconds of it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's convenient. So yeah, I think I kind of want to watch the original trilogy: Left Behind the movie, Left Behind 2, Tribulation Force, and Left Behind 3, World at War. Are these the name of
Tribulation Force?
That's what
that sounds like a rad military name.
It's Tribulation
We are
Force.
Tribulation Force.
Yeah, and then World at War, and then there's Left Behind 2014, Left Behind: Rise of the Antichrist. And I guess there's a spinoff called Vanish, Left Behind, Next Generation.
Man, I don't know how religious you guys were growing up, but anyone who did grow up in a Christian household, like, has a very distinct shared trauma of like waking up when your parents just like went on a shopping trip somewhere.
And you think,
and so you were alone, and you convince yourself that you were left behind.
Yeah,
like,
Jake, I think that was just you.
No, that's not just me.
No, dude. Okay, well, let me rephrase. Out of this group of three here, I don't know about
out of this
Zach,
group of
but
three, I concede.
Okay, yeah, I totally never thought, oh my God, it's the rapture. Now, if I had woken up and nobody had been home, and then I didn't see them for like days on end, maybe you would think it was the rapture. But like,
is that what Kevin thought in Home Alone?
No. It's like, oh my God, it's whenever I
made my family this happy. Yeah, am I making a wish?
I always, whenever I can't find somebody, I'll be like if I'm with a friend or something, that will be like, where's so and so? I'm like, I don't know, maybe the rapture happened. And like, but the funny thing is like, I remember where I was, but I was somewhere there's a lot of people, and I was like, where is he? And my friend that was with me I was like, maybe the rapture happened. They're like, well, that's weird. They only took him, because it was still like several other people around us. I don't remember where we were. I think it was like some sort of, I don't know what it was. Anyway, I always make that joke because I don't know. To me, it's funny because I'm a dad. Dad jokes.
You're a dad now?
No, but I make dad jokes.
Breaking news, listeners. Right. Justin Strange is a dad.
Man,
well, what's up, buddy?
I don't know, man. I'd be like, guys, we got to put the podcast on hold. I just found out I'm a dad. Like, that's the only way you would know if I'm an actual father or not. I forgot about like the Left Behind movies, Jake. That I guess I never thought of them as post-apocalyptic, you know?
Well, I mean, if you're not,
but it makes sense. No, it makes sense. Yeah, it totally makes sense. I just never thought of it like that.
I think it just depends on like if you're not raised up in like a
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
like a
true.
Christian, you're like, oh, that's some neat fiction. But if you're raised up in like a religious household, you're like, this is a real possibility that could
Well,
happen. Oh my God.
I was my mom was very Christian growing up. I mean, not saying she's not now, but it was a little bit worse growing up, and that kind of stuff. She'd always say stuff like that, or she just talk. I knew about the rapture stuff just from
Yeah,
going to church.
that's my post-apocalyptic.
Well, Zach, if you don't mind, I have a little list here. If you'd like me to go over it.
Do it.
Okay, so this is BuzzFeed, so it's not like the super best source, but um, it's it's called the 21 best apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic movies ever made. I'm gonna guess they're not the best that's ever made. Um, they should put stuff like this is our list, like not use the phrase ever made. Okay, so we have Night of the Comet, which is a 1984 film. I've never heard of it. A comet wipes out humanity. Valley Girls Reggie and Sam fight against cannibal zombies and a group of evil scientists.
Sounds like a nice sci-fi.
Well, it is, and it says this movie has become a cult classic in the years since its release, and it's not hard to see why. This seems like a movie that would be made fun of on Mystery Science Theater 3000, but I'd watch it. We have another one called The Road, which I've never heard of.
Is that with Vigo Mortensen?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
Pretty sure it is. I just watched that. I think I messaged you all on saying I recently watched it. I have it on DVD, in fact. Yep, 2009 film.
Yeah, 2009. In both the book and the movie, the cause of the apocalypse in The Road is unclear. But however it happened, the humans are left to roam the earth, and the humans that are left to roam the earth are having a very bad time.
Yeah, that movie follows a man and his son basically traversing their way through this world, and there's multiple flashbacks to the father's relationship with the mother or his wife, and how the wife just has suicidal ideations and decides to just leave the family, including her young son. It's pretty not on the level of Fred's Bleak, but in a more modern setting, how you're trying to keep the dream of a future alive, and that ends on a more positive note.
That's good
for sure. And Vigo, aka Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, I don't see him in much, but he's excellent.
Wow, yeah,
yeah.
I've literally only seen him in Lord of the Rings, so. All right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Next one is called Children of Men. Children of Men envisions a world where women lose the ability to give birth. It's an interesting idea. Oh, yeah. So then our population dwindles.
Dystopian.
Okay. Then you have 28 days later, 28 weeks later. I've never seen.
You never seen either? Shoot. The days is better than weeks for sure.
Let's see. Pretty much single-handedly revitalized the zombie genre after an era of George Romero's Living Dead movies. Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead and Edgar Wright's Shaun of the Dead came out just 2 years later. Okay. I Am Legend. I've never seen this either, but I know what it's about. Movie with the best boy in any post-apocalyptic world. Sam is the dog you want when things go south. A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place Part 2. Have y'all seen those?
No.
Nope.
They're really good. Both of them are really good.
Once I saw what the creatures looked like on clips, I was like, okay, it took me out of it.
Well, they're like aliens, though. It's not like a zombie movie or anything, but
yeah, it just we don't need to see it. Keep the mystery alive.
Zombieland and Zombieland Double Tap. I've never seen either one of these movies.
They're nice comedies.
Zombieland's really good.
Yeah.
Okay. Night of the Living Dead franchise. So we have Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, Survival of the Dead. Golly. Land of the Dead came out in 2005. I saw that in theaters. I don't remember it, but I remember seeing it. Diary of the Dead came out in 2007. Survival of the Dead came out in 2009. And I think they're trying to get another George Romero movie made, even though he's dead. Planet of the Apes. Have you all seen any of those?
I didn't understand what you just said.
Planet of the Apes.
Wow. I saw the original.
The original was good. Yes, the original is really good. Me and my friends watched them all in order because, like, the original Planet of the Apes movies, there's like 5 or 6, right? Well, it goes like it in the middle of the series. It kind of starts over, and then the the newer ones, I can't remember. I don't remember if there's not really sequels, but like, or if
Like
they're more like
soft
prequels or
reboots.
yeah, I don't know. But we watched them all. We watched every single one of them. It was really good. Like I really enjoyed the original ones, especially the first one. The first one was good, especially when you know he finds out that it's Earth that has been the Planet of the Apes is Earth.
It's an iconic scene
Yep,
ending.
with the Statue of Liberty. You blew it up, and then Wally.
Wally, the
Would
cartoon,
Wall? I mean, I
the
guess
animated
Wally
movie.
would be considered
I haven't seen that.
apocalyptic.
This is literally an end of the world flick because it's the Earth that ends, not humanity. Wally, sadly, is probably the most realistic apocalypse movie, but it's also one of the most hopeful. I've seen it once, and I think I fell asleep through it, not because it wasn't good, but because I was freaking tired. But actually, the Criterion Collection, its first Disney movie in the Criterion Collection was Wall-E, and I picked it up like instantly, so I need to watch it. Mad Max franchise. I've never seen a Mad Max movie.
You've not even seen the latest?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
I've heard great
I,
things. One of
I
my
saw it in
buddies,
theaters and it's wonderful.
yeah, one of my buddies likes loves that movie. There's Mad Max, and then there's a sequel
You
that's
know,
not called Mad Max, but it's called something else.
it's Thunderdome.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just not called
yeah,
Mad
Mad
Max.
Max Thunderdome
Welcome to Thunderdome,
or
bitch.
Beyond Thunderdome. Excuse me.
And then Shaun of the Dead, which is like a parody spoof, whatever, of Living Dead. Snowpiercer. Have y'all seen that? With
Mm-mm,
Chris
nope.
Evans?
No, but I read an intriguing fan theory where that's the world of Willy Wonka.
Okay. What? I hate theories. I hate theories.
That's what makes it so much fun,
I
Justin.
don't know. Maybe I'm just a sourpuss or something. Because like I
You're
remember
just getting old, man. How old are you?
36.
36?
I keep almost saying
That's
37
young.
because I'm about to turn
Like, you're-
37. But
You're getting old, grumpy, man.
well, it's just even
These
like
newfangled kids
with
with
the
newfangled theories back in
Shut
my
up.
day. A movie was a movie, god darn it.
well, like when Endgame was coming out, there's just all these theories, and it just bugs me because like you never know which one's right and which one's wrong. And what if you read the right one on accident? I don't know. I just don't care for theories. Like I didn't even care for film theory when I took it because it's just theories. There's nothing like scientific about it. It's just theories. I don't know. Sorry.
I
Snowpiercer
feel like
was
it should be
good,
a theme.
by the way. I saw it and actually not too long ago. I watched this movie and it's actually a really good movie. It's like about this. The world is pretty much covered in like snow and stuff, and the it's like an ice age almost, and there's this train that has to keep going or it'll freeze, and that's why the train is like it's like the central part is like if it has to keep moving or it'll completely freeze, and the people that are on it live there and all this stuff. And there's like classes, so you have these rich people up front and then the poor crap people in the back, and basically it's about the poor crap people finally trying to take over the train.
I think the post-apocalyptic, like if it passes whatever the turning point is, which leads to the destroyed world, now society has to acclimate. I think that's the most interesting part, just how people and humans survive and
Yeah, and like
thrive or die.
being on a train that
Mhm.
can't stop, like, and that's by the same guy that did I believe it's the same person who did Parasite. Okay,
Yeah,
then you have
I think we need more movies that have to deal with like the environmental impacts of disaster. That'd be great. I'm tired of seeing the disaster itself, that being the focus.
so
We'll just get to the aftermath.
so like you're saying, let's say like the day after tomorrow, you want to see the movie that happens after everything goes to crap.
Yeah, whether it's the rebuilding of society or people living, but I'd like to see some type of evolution.
I feel like that
I mean,
would
isn't that
be-
like the Book of Eli, though?
I mean, yeah, it's
There are
like
movies
any
that.
it's like any apocalyptic movie that takes place after everything has, like even Snowpiercer, everything the apocalypse happened, they're on this train and now they live there. Like
Are you like wanting like a upbeat post-apocalyptic movie, like they're rebuilding society or something?
I mean, in Threads, we see the beginnings of that, but I'd like to see the, I guess, progression of that
Yeah. So you want to see it? I think you want to see it like when it's way down the line.
Post. Yeah.
Yeah.
Post.
Like they've already like kind of rebuilt. Like even like The Walking Dead. Like there's several instances you see where they have figured out how to live and like
Yeah.
because that group, I swear to God, and I thought about this.
There's still electricity.
Yeah, exactly. And like that group goes through like different, like I guess I'll call them villages, kind of, because now
Bases.
and
Yeah.
they just go through different living situations. It's like they can't stay in one freaking place, and you get to see all these different types. So like
Because
at one
those
point,
humans.
well, it's just they live in a prison for a while, then they find like a nice suburban neighborhood that they move into, and that's like that was
Burned
like the
down.
most no, it was like completely salvaged, and they still had electricity and running water and everything. They go to the CDC. That's the first place they go is the CDC, and then they go to other places like a small town, and then a small like a prison, and then they've move on to this like hill area with this mansion on it and stuff. And so like if you're looking for that kind of stuff, because like when Rick Grimes wakes up, the apocalypse has happened, and it's been I don't know if it's been months or years, but it's been a while.
Just judge based on the condition of the zombies.
Well,
like if you want to follow that thread further, Justin, like they have a new series called The World Beyond, The Walking Dead World Beyond, and that's like about the first generation of kids.
That would be cool to see.
Up. They grow up after things are kind of recovered, and so it's like
they were born
coming of
after
age.
Coming of
post
age,
the zombie apocalypse and rebuilt.
Just normal to them.
So they grow up. They've grown up with just being a thing and just like knowing how to fight zombies and knowing how to kill, and it's all very standard business sort of stuff.
Yes,
World Beyond.
In The Road, the movie with Aragorn, the son grows up in this world, and they eventually find a bunch of food, and he finds a vending machine. He's like, "Here's son, here's a can of Coke," and he's like, "What is Coke?" And he drinks it, and he loves it.
I'm gonna find this show. I mean, I did find it. I just want to find it to watch. Oh, it's already 2 seasons in.
Yeah.
There's so many spin-offs these days. Fear the Walking Dead was the main one.
They're doing Daryl Dixon, who's I think he somehow made it to Europe, and then there's another one with Negan and Maggie, and then there's Fear the Walking Dead, which I love Negan. Negan's probably one of my favorite.
Maggie's
villains.
Annoying though.
Yeah, Maggie.
She just came back to the Walking Dead because of her show on network television. I forgot which CBS and NBC. It was that show. It didn't work out.
Yeah, I remember what show.
I'm coming back, and please take me.
Okay, let's go back to this list. I'm almost done with it, but yes, I want to watch that. Jake, that World Beyond, that sounds cool. Okay, then you have the Hunger Games. Is that a post-apocalyptic?
Yeah, that would be post. Yeah, that's post-apocalyptic.
I've seen it. I've seen them all.
It's set in future America after something happened and they broke up into 12 districts.
Oh yeah. Okay, you're right. Okay, and then The Day After Tomorrow, which we talked about, that it's a disaster movie, is what it looks like. The Matrix. I didn't realize that was a post-apocalyptic. After humanity is defeated by AI, we are inserted into a computer program to be used as batteries for the machine. So, man, the Matrix is coming. It's becoming reality.
It is.
Interstellar. I've never seen it. You seen Interstellar? I've heard great things about it, though, like really good things about it. Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. I've seen Blade Runner.
So good.
Yeah, I've seen Blade Runner. I haven't seen Blade Runner 2049.
2049 got a lot of flack. It didn't make very big waves in theaters, but it is just as good. It is truly a spiritual sequel.
Successor, as I say. Akira. It's 1988.
Memes.
Yeah, it looks like an animated movie. For starters, Akira is one of the best looking movies ever made, set in Neo Tokyo after global conflict. It's a story about telekinesis, a biker gang, the effects on war and children, and a whole lot more. It's 1988. I'm going to find this movie. Sorry, I'm copying it.
That's one of the memes where he's like, "Leave me alone." I was like, Akira.
Okay.
I hope people get that.
2 more. This Is the End. Have y'all seen that?
I've read about it.
It's the one where all the like Seth Rogen, James Franco, and all them. They're hanging
Oh
out at
yeah.
James Franco house, but they play themselves. And then Terminator franchise.
Oh, I forgot to talk about that one. Yeah, it's like a
We can talk about
classic.
That's the last one. We can talk about that now if you want. I mean, it's your episode, I guess, but
Yeah, I just wanted to. Like, I'm surprised I didn't mention it earlier.
I can't
It's
believe
like one of the. It's like one of the hallmarks of action, and I mean, it's mainly just an action movie
I do.
with sci-fi.
I've seen the first and the second one. I did see one of the newer ones. I really enjoyed the first one.
I think that's all people need to see.
Yeah, like
The first
seriously,
three.
the first three, maybe, definitely the first two, because in the
Yeah.
first one, the Terminator's kind of the villain. In the second one, he's not, and so like, I don't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like,
Yeah, I've only seen the first one. I've heard the first three all have very different vibes. They're
yeah.
very different from one another.
I don't know if I actually know now that I think about it, because they first three all have Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. I might have seen
They all
the
have
third
Arnold
one.
Schwarzenegger, but the way that they're set up are different.
Different, yeah. I do remember watching the first two for sure. I'm not sure if I watched the third one or not.
I thought it was just creepy whenever they did the cut to the cutaway to the animatronic version of Arnold. When you see him like with the flesh and the robot, then they cut away to the actual actor Arnold. It's just kind of jarring to me.
That is weird.
Effects of the time.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the list. I just wanted to kind of go through see if it jogs our memory a little bit.
How about a mind pondering question as we begin to close out on this episode? What do you guys want to see more of in the future when it comes to post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic film? Like, I'd like to see more AI included. We're talking about all that, like a lot of the headlines these days are artificial intelligence and how that's going to change the world in many ways and how we operate on a daily basis in our lives. I'd like to see some type of emphasize AI-centric
So like,
movie. I mean, it'd be beyond
Like
the normal,
Threads, but for the AI uprising.
yeah,
beyond
that's
the
what I was thinking.
beyond bipedal creatures that look like robots. I just want something more.
Like how 9,000, is that what it's called? On
Oh, on
Something,
Space
Odyssey.
something
Odyssey.
like that. Yeah, just something more, a little bit more, not cerebral either, but just like something not something we haven't seen too much of when
Yeah.
it comes to AI.
What about like Smart House? You ever see that movie?
Oh yeah.
Because that the Smart House is like an AI controlled house played by Kathy Siegel, and she like the AI wants to become the family's mother matriarch basically, but she's not. She can't be because she's AI. It's not a post-apocalyptic or anything. I'm just thinking like it's like when you watch, like, it's like Jarvis, right? Like, no matter where Tony is, Jarvis is there, or Friday is there. That's kind of what it is, except for it does they do create an AI that turns to an evil robot with Ultron, but for the most part, Jarvis and Friday stay pretty in check. Whereas this one learns about the family and kind of like develops an emotion for them and stuff like that, and wants to be in control of this family, basically.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Zach, have you seen Ex Machina?
Yeah, that's a great movie with Oscar Isaac and Alicia Vikander. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, I do like her a lot.
I'm glad they didn't do sequels or anything because I think it's based off some comic or magna or whatever they call it. But I think, I just thought it was excellent the way it was presented. A very slow film, not lots of pauses in between dialogue, but that really appealed to me.
It's an A24 film. That's one of the only films I really like Oscar Isaac in. I think it's an A24 film. I might be wrong.
A24,
Okay.
Alex Garland. Alex Garland's one of my favorite directors. He did Ex Machina, Annihilation.
Annihilation.
Yeah.
I think he did 28 Days Later.
He did?
Yeah, he did 28 Days Later. He's a very I'm not gonna say he's underrated because people know about him, but he's a very like underrepresented director in a lot of people's conversations. Like, people don't know about him and they should.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name?
Alex Garland. He did Ex Machina, Annihilation, 28 Days Later. He's done Dread.
Oh, Dread was great.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Say his name one more time.
Alex Garland.
Garland. Okay. I'll look him up. There he is.
He's done a fantastic
Ex
work.
Machina is one of the only movies I like Oscar Isaac in. I don't really care for him other than that. Looks like he was a writer for Devil May Cry. That's a
Yeah, he's
Oh yeah.
really good.
Yeah, he's a writer for all the well no, just Devil May Cry. Looks like some DLC, the original Devil May Cry game. And he was a writer on Enslaved? Wow, he's done a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, and
It's
no one talks about him. He's great.
Enslaved Odyssey to the West is a video game, and it's a really good video game. The Beach. That's a novel. Looks like he wrote a novel. I guess they put novels on IMDb. Oh, no, they don't. No, they don't. But it's based off the novel. Okay. With Leo.
I think that's the one with the sand eats people, I think.
Oh, really?
Maybe.
Richard sets out for an island rumored to be a
I haven't seen that one.
paradise. It's The Beach. It's with Leonardo DiCaprio. I do remember this movie came out.
Wrong.
Yeah.
That's not it.
I remember this movie came out, but I don't think it's about where sand eats people.
No, it's not.
But yeah, he did Dread. He did Devil May Cry, Ex Machina, Annihilation. Wow.
Yeah, lots of really good
Check
stuff.
him out. He didn't do 28 weeks later. Just did 28 days.
Yeah, 28 days. But they are gearing up to make 28 years later.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Or 28 months later, excuse me.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Who's behind that production?
I believe that's Alex.
Well, let's see.
Garden and
I did read something.
Alex Garden, and they're gonna get back Cillian Murphy.
Oh, wow.
Later.
Yeah.
It says director. Oh yeah, Alex Garland and Danny Boyle, and Danny Boyle.
Ooh, Danny Boyle, lovely.
That doesn't say who's acting in it yet, but I would hope that they.
Cillian's talked about it and said that he would come back if they offered him the role.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's all in there. It's there. The ball's in their court, then, huh?
So, Justo, what would you like to see more of in the future of apocalyptic movies?
I do like the idea of a story within an apocalyptic setting, not about the apocalypse. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, well, let's learn about it a little bit, but let's do something else, because it seems like anytime an apocalypse movie comes around, it's about. But I mean, I guess there are a lot of Book of Eli and stuff. I would like to just see some good storytelling within the apocalypse movie.
Like what? Like people having a domestic violence situation and just living in that world, or
yeah,
or
it's just like with the Book of Eli, he's trying to get to a certain point in the apocalypse, so he has to fight all these people and blah blah blah. It would be interesting to see a post-apocalyptic world, but the post-apocalyptic part really doesn't play a major part in the movie.
It's just world building.
It's just like
just the sandbox.
Even with The Walking Dead, they go to these different living situations, and then they live there for a while, but eventually the post-apocalyptic, the zombies and stuff catch up to them, and they end up being forced away, and that's part of the TV show to keep it going. But it's it would be interesting to see a good story in a post-apocalyptic world where the environment looks great, and they've learned how to live there, and it's just a story.
So where it's not in your face,
right?
In a way, it's inevitable, obviously.
Right, exactly.
Connected, and this is how we do things the way we do now.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of learn about it maybe at the beginning, but eventually it's just you don't really notice it.
Maybe like a love story.
Yeah, I mean,
that world.
Pretty much anything. It'd be kind of. Be kind of cool to see just a really good story within that world, as opposed to that world being the story. Now, if you're talking about what kind of things, as far as AI and stuff, I guess I would like to see something different as it's not a comet hit the earth or zombie apocalypse and stuff. Maybe find a different way to get to that apocalyptic part of the movie. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to be we've seen AI and all this stuff. It would be cool to see something different that is the reason for the apocalypse.
Just trying to think. AI, we have natural disasters. We have
it's kind of hard to.
The threat of nuclear weapons. I mean, what else could we do?
Well, Planet of the Apes was a disease or a sickness that happened. So Like we've been, I guess you're right. We've been through all the possible possibilities, if that makes sense.
How
I'm
about
sure,
time travel? Someone comes from the future and
Ooh,
destroys
messing it up.
everything. Yeah.
and then goes back to the future.
See ya.
Yeah, and just leaves everything a mess.
Well, that's kind of like, I mean, that's not post-apocalyptic, but that's kind of like Tenet. Have you guys watched Tenet? So it's a
I'm
Christopher
afraid
Nolan
to.
film,
Yeah.
and it's the one where this guy gets inducted into this organization. They're trying to stop the end of the world that has potentially already happened, and that deals with a lot of like timey-wimey, which essentially
You want me?
deals with an organization in the future. They've figured out a way to go back in time, but it just, how do they describe it? It's not like you just instantaneously appear in the past. You actually live going backwards. So you continue to age. It's just that the world is going like backwards around you.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so this guy is from the future, and he's
I'm from the future.
trying to the protagonist is trying to figure out what's going on, try to prevent this potential catastrophe from happening. Potentially has already happened. They don't know yet. It's really good.
That sounds
That's
like a
kind of like
Christopher
a
Nolan
future guy.
movie.
Everything's so very cerebral.
Yeah, that's a
But
cerebral.
I want to see it though. I heard the audio mix isn't the greatest, but it's intentional according to.
Listen, I watch
always
movies with
intentional,
subtitles
isn't
on
it?
anyway. I always have subtitles, so it wasn't
Yeah,
a
me
problem
too.
for me.
I've been doing it more often. Yeah.
Yeah, I do it all the time. Yeah.
How about Looper though? Kind of similar. I mean, it's more of a dystopian society, and this mob organization wants to get rid of Bruce Willis slash Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character when
Yeah.
he's young.
I remember that movie. I
Yeah, that's a
watched
good
it
movie.
once. Yeah. You know
That
what
was
else?
that was the only movie I like of Ryan Johnson's. The Force or the Last
Aw.
Jedi was horrible.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
Hey, Ryan Johnson did Knives Out, and that was a pretty good movie.
yeah, dude.
I enjoyed that movie.
That was
Just
good. Too. I
don't.
forgot about.
Okay, I'm gonna eat my words here because the reason I don't like Oscar Isaac is because of his performance on Star Wars. But when it comes to directors, don't blame Star Wars on him. I guess
On
that's what
who?
I'm trying to say. On Ryan
Ryan
Johnson.
Johnson.
I guess you could blame Kathleen Kennedy then.
Yeah,
There
I
was
mean-
lack of direction from the beginning.
Because
They
I
had
don't-
zero direction of what they're going. Oh, it's just after the first movie. Let's think about what we're going to do.
with the next movie, not let's think about all three of the movies at the same time and
Well,
figure out where they're gonna like. I don't know.
Lucas had
Sorry.
the scripts for 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, he did. We've talked about this before, so let's not get into it. But yes, don't blame. What is it? Don't blame.
Don't blame Ryan Johnson for
Yeah,
it,
that's
because
not what I was-
he's actually done some really good stuff. He's done like Knives Out, Poker Face. He's done some episodes of Breaking Bad, Looper.
Yeah, unless they're just straight up bad. Like he's
I
probably
mean, every
a good
director has
other places.
their movies that are very divisive, and for good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't praise a director for everything.
Well, when you're a director for hire, there's not much you can do like
Yeah.
in the way of like
I mean,
creative
he had free reign
control.
he had free reign to do what he wanted though in The Last Jedi.
Oh well, maybe you should blame Ryan Johnson then.
Yeah.
Maybe don't blame him all the way.
Man,
I
he was
guess
effective.
don't. You can blame
Ruin
him.
Johnson.
Just don't let that be the reason you don't see some of his.
Obviously, I like Looper. I prefaced my
Yeah,
argument
that's
with
true.
that.
Well, Knives Out was also really good. So anyway, yeah, that's all I got for you.
And Jake, lastly, what are you hoping when it comes to the future innovations of disaster post-apocalyptic movies?
More sex.
That's what we
Yeah,
need.
to-
We need
yeah,
more-
get people more-
nudity in the apocalypse.
Yeah, just get more seats in the chairs. I get it.
Yeah.
Well, there's a
Um,
movie. I'm sorry, Jake. 2 seconds. There's a movie called Contracted by an Arkansas director, in which I forget his name right now. If you want to look it up, that's fine. But in which there's a sexually transmitted disease creating zombies.
Wow,
So I don't know. That's a new way to
that's
think
interesting.
of apocalypse, because it wasn't an apocalyptic movie. It's just because it was only one person you learn about that's turning into a zombie through a STD.
I'm gonna
I
look
forgot
that
what you
up.
said. I just heard the word STD.
I said,
Man, hard for me to get past zombie STD,
STD?
sex violence.
yeah.
Crazy. Man, I don't know what exactly
Sorry.
I'm looking for in post-apocalyptic films. I like I like
Eric England, that's his name. Eric England. Go
man.
ahead.
I very much like the existential terror that I received from Threads. And so I think movies incorporating that theme would be good. I feel like we've kind of become oversaturated with like action post-apocalyptic
I'm
or
tired of it.
like
Yeah.
preventative post-apocalyptic or survival post-apocalyptic. And I really just want something where there is no recovery from it. And it's just people trying to survive as long as they can or in the situation themselves, not necessarily trying to overcome it or exchange it or remove it, but simply just exist in
Yeah.
the finality of the situation.
Yeah. I would like to see more just bleakness, to be honest. We don't need a happy ending
Yeah.
all the time. But again, I don't know. I think the day and age of what people want really dictates also what movie makers will make, unless they're experimental, willing to give it a go. I
Yeah, I
want to
think
see A24 besides Ex Machina. Let's have another A24 made movie when it comes to that genre.
I will say, speaking of A24, I'm looking very much so to see the Dream Scenario with Nicolas Cage. Have you seen the trailers for that?
Mm-mm.
It looks fantastic. It's this surrealist comedy where Nicolas Cage plays this, hapless nobody who just so happens to be showing up in like everybody's dreams.
That's creepy.
And so it's like the fame and situations that get into him because people keep dreaming about him. He doesn't know why. That looks like it's going to be a good movie. I could see that almost being apocalyptic in a sort of way. I don't think this movie's set up to be, but I could see that as being terrifying. Like if everyone just started having like mutual shared dreams or something
That
about
would
the end
be.
of the world, that would be terrifying.
People come together in like little groups or start discussing, having like little group therapy sessions, evolved into this bigger thing.
Yeah, and then maybe like different groups had different post-apocalyptic like shared dreams, and so you had factions based off the type of dreams that people had, and then like that's what actually caused the apocalypse because people had different visions of it and self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't know, that'd be neat. Nobody stole my idea. I got to copyright that.
Let's see the screenplay in a year or two.
Anyhow, yeah, I think just like really bleak, nihilistic, existential terror in film.
Like
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, I think that's the same reason that I like Annihilation so much and the Thing because it's very much an unfathomable scenario that they find themselves trapped in.
Excellent. Well, I think that was a wonderful episode. Just to want to close it out.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for listening. That was a good conversation. If you guys have any comments about this episode, if you have ideas for any other episodes, or just want to say hello, or you want to give us any type of review, you can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, which is actually I learned is going away, and YouTube is going to be like Google's podcast sharing place. Yeah. Not necessarily YouTube. I don't know exactly how they're doing it, but I just remember it saying Google Podcast going away. YouTube will be where I'm like, okay, whatever.
Wow.
YouTube, and then you can also check us out on any social media except for Threads. I have not yet created a Threads account, and I probably won't ever.
No.
Social media is saturated. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, we can find us at plenty of other places. But yeah, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, X. I don't know if you want to call it X or Twitter, but
X, formerly Twitter. That's what like all the news organizations these days. Like the guidance now is when you mention X, either verbally or written, you must you say X, formerly known as Twitter.
it's like Prince, the artist formerly known as Prince.
It's maybe wonder like when the day will come, like when we need to stop saying that disclaimer thing.
So anyway, yeah, hit us up on any of those social medias, and you can also listen to us on pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. So, but thank you all for listening, and you want to say it, Jake? Do you want me to?
And have a fantastic day.
Bye.